Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasul al-Kareem. Wa ba'd. Alhamdulillah. We are glad to be back with you today on this 18th of Sha'ban, 1443, on a Monday. And Alhamdulillah, we have reached the next portion in our text, the clarification of the methodology of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal in Creed and Propagation. We're on the second research, or the second unit, the fifth objective, or the fifth chapter. And so the Shaikh Mustafa Hamdu Ulayyan has taken us to the next portion, and he begins by saying, quote, المطلب الخامس واقعية الإمام أحمد في مسائل السياسة الشرعية. أولا، وجوب إقامة حاكم يقوم بأمر الناس ومعاينته على الخير. The fifth objective, the placement of the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal of principles regarding matters connected to the political affairs of the revealed law. Firstly, the necessity of وجوب إقامة حاكم, the necessity of the judge or the ruler establishing affairs, يقوم بأمر الناس, who stands by and establishes the order of the people and assists them in goodness. يرى الإمام أحمد أن الحاكم العادل الصالح هو خير من صالحي الأمة، ويرى وجوب إقامة هذا الحاكم للقيام بشؤون الناس وحفظ حقوقهم. قال الإمام أحمد بن حنبل: الفتنة إذا لم يكن إمام يقوم بأمر الناس. وقال: لابد للناس من حاكم أو تضيع حقوقهم. The Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah held to the understanding that the righteous and pious judge and ruler is better than the rank and file pious people of the Ummah. He also held to the understanding of the necessity of this judge and ruler establishing affairs and also keeping the establishment of the affairs of people and preserving the rights. The Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah said, Al-fitna, tribulation, is when there is no imam to establish the rights of the people. And this is taken from Abu Bakr al-Khalal fi Sunnah al-Mujallid al-Awwal fi Safha 58. This is taken from Abu Bakr al-Khalal in his book As-Sunnah, Volume 1, page 58. He also said, it's absolutely necessary for the people to have a judge and ruler, because if not, do you want their rights to be trampled upon? ويرى الإمام أحمد استحباب الدعاء للحاكم المسلم، فقال: لو كان لي دعوة مجابة لجعلتها في إمام المسلمين لأن صلاحه صلاح لهم. وكان الإمام يؤيد الحكام فيما فيه خير كما فعل في فتح عمومية، وكما فعل في محاربة بابك الخرمي الباطني صاحب إحدى الفتن الخطيرة في التاريخ الإسلام، ولكنه أيضا كان لا يعاون الأمراء الظلماء على ظلمهم وبغيهم، بل كان يرد عليهم ويبين ضلالهم، ويرى أن الأمراء الظلماء ومن عاونهم في جهنم، بل كان لا يكلم أجناد السلطان ولا يفتيهم أحيانا. Imam Ahmed also held the position of the praiseworthiness of making supplication for the Muslim ruler and judge. He said, if I had one dua, one supplication that was sure to be answered, I would have made it for the Imam of the Muslims, because his rectification is rectification for them. Imam Ahmed also strongly held to strengthening the rulers in that which is good and supporting them in that affair, just as was done in the case of the Amuriyah. And likewise, he had the same thing in fighting against Babak al-Khirmi, who was the chief ruler of the Batiniya sect, and he is one of the carriers of tribulation, one of the most dangerous of the tribulations in the history of Islam. But in addition to this point, he did not assist tyrannical rulers and leaders in their oppression or their wrongdoing, but he used to repudiate and refute them and make clear their restrainers. He also had the position that the tyrannical rulers and those who assist them do go to the fire. He did not speak to or address the armies of the Sultan, and sometimes he didn't even give them fatwa because of certain circumstances. والإمام أحمد واقع في نظرته إلى الحكام وكيفية التعامل معهم، فهو يناصحهم ويقف في وجههم إذا زاغوا، كما فعل في فتنة خلق القرآن حيث سجن وجلد ونفي، ولكنه لم يأمر بحمل السلاح والخروج، مع أن فقهاء بغداد شاوروه في ذلك وكانوا يأتمرون بأمره. قال أبو بكر المروذي رحمه الله، وهو صاحب الإمام أحمد رحمه الله: سمعت أبا عبد الله يأمر بكف الدماء وينكر الخروج إنكارا شديدا. Imam Ahmed also had the understanding with regard to the rulers of his time, how one should transact and work with them. He would advise them. He would rebuke them openly to their face and advise them to their face when they went astray, just as he did at the time of the tribulation of the creation of the Quran and the Inquisition around it. He was jailed, he was flogged, and he was exiled and suffered, but he did not command the people to take up arms and to come out against him. Although the fiqh scholars of Baghdad had had a meeting with him on exactly just that issue. They had met in order to get his judgment on the affair. And Abu Bakr al-Marrudi said, I heard Abu Abdullah, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, command the people to abstain from the shedding of blood. And he repudiated the idea of revolting against the rulers with a stern rebuke. And this is taken from Abu Bakr al-Khalal fi Sunnah al-Mujallad al-Awwal, al-Safha 39 wa 100. It's taken from Abu Bakr al-Khalal in his Sunnah, volume 1, page 139. وكان يقول أن تبقى فتنة خاصة خير من أن تصير عامة. To have the tribulation of a ruler specifically like this is better than that the tribulation should become a general affair amongst all people if he's removed. وقال الانقياد إلى من ولاه الله أمركم أن تنزع يدا من طاعته ولا تخرج عليه بسيفك حتى يجعل الله لك فرجا ومخرجا ولا تخرج على السلطان وتسمع وتطيع ولا تنكث بيعة، فمن فعل ذلك فهو مبتدع مخالف مفارق للجماعة. وإن أمرك السلطان بأمر هو لله معصية فليس لك أن تطيعه البتة، وليس لك أن تخرج عليه ولا تمنعه حقه. والإمساك في فتنة سنة ماضية واجب لزومها فإن ابتليت فقدم نفسك دون دينك ولا تعن على فتنة بيد ولا لسان، ولكن اكفف يدك ولسانك وهواك والله المعين. And Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, he went on to say, submission to those who Allah has given authority over is your affair, and do not move one handspan from the obedience of that ruler. Do not rise up and go against such a one with your sword until Allah should make for you a purpose and reason that is unequivocal in that regard. Do not rise up against the ruler, but instead listen and obey, and do not seek to throw off the oath of allegiance. Whoever did that, then he's an innovator, opposing and exiting from the collective of the people. And if your ruler orders you with an affair that to Allah is disobedience, then it's not for you that you obey him at all. It's not for you that you rise up against that ruler or forbid him his right when he's exercising his right. Abstaining from combat in times of tribulation is a sunnah long past and compulsory to maintain. If you are tested, then flee with yourself and preserve your religion. Do not assist in bringing about tribulation with either your hand or your tongue, but restrain your hand and tongue and your desires, and Allah is the assister. This statement of Imam Ahmed also goes with وَلَذَا كان يرى رضي الله عنه حرمة الخروج على الإمام الشرعي الذي توفر فيه الشروط وظهر منه فسق وتقصير فإنما فسقه على نفسه وعليه ما حمل وعليكم ما حملتم، وهذا كله موافقة للأحاديث والآثار مع عدم السكرة عن منكرات السلاطين مع عدم سكوته عن منكرات السلاطين. So in addition to this, Imam Ahmed also held the understanding, may Allah be pleased with him, about the impermissibility of rising up against the Imam that's ruling with the revealed law, that possesses all of the attributes that necessitate his rule. If there should appear from him some rebellious sin or some shortcoming, then his rebellious sin is only against himself, and upon him is that which he bears of his sin, and upon you is that which you bear. All of this is in agreement with the ahadith and narratives of before, but one is not to be silent about the wrongdoings of the rulers. إن ظهر من الإمام الشرعي التي توفت فيه الشروط السابقة الفسق والتقصير فيجب الصبر عليه كما جاء في الأحاديث والآثار ويحرم طاعته في معصية ويحرم الخروج عليه. And so, if you have the Imam that is ruling by the revealed law, who possesses the conditions mentioned a moment ago, but happens to also possess rebellious sin or shortcomings, it's compulsory to be patient with that, just as is mentioned in the ahadith and narratives just cited. It's impermissible to go against him in this regard, but it's also impermissible to obey him in disobedience, and it's impermissible to rebel against him, although he may be disobedient. وكان يرى أن من اجتمع المسلمون عليه بأي وسيلة أو كيفية للسلم أو الغلبة أو مشاورة أو قرعة أو الاختيار أو بنص من قبله فإنه يحرم الخروج عليه. قال الإمام أحمد في أصول السنة: ومن خرج على إمام من أئمة المسلمين وقد كان الناس اجتمعوا عليه وأقروا له بالخلافة بأي وجه كان بالرضا أو الغلبة فقد شق هذا الخارج عصى المسلمين وخالف الآثار عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فإن مات الخارج عليه مات ميتة جاهلية. He also held the understanding that when the Muslims have agreed upon a ruler in any way, shape, or form, or how, with either peace, or that he's conquered over them, or by judgment, or by coming together by agreement and drawing lots or agreement, or choice, or with a decisive text of that which came before, or he was accepted, then it's impermissible to rise up against him. لكن كل ذلك مشروط بالبيعة كما قال أبو يعلى يعني البغدادي رحمه الله. But all of that is conditioned upon the oath of allegiance, just as mentioned by Abu Ya'la. ولا تصح الإمامة بالوراثة, and it's not permitted to be the imam over the people just because of inheritance dynastically. إلا بعد البيعة, except if there's a situation where there's an oath of allegiance that was taken. قال العلامة ابن حمدان الحنبلي في نهاية المبتدئين الصفحة 64. It was said by the senior scholar Ibn Hamdan Najmuddin Al-Hanbali in his book نهاية المبتدئين, page 64: ولا تستحق الإمامة بالإرث والنسب. وقال ابن بلبان في قلائد العقيان أو بالغلبة تارة وممن يصلح لها. One is not deserving of the post of imam merely by inheritance or by lineage. Ibn Balban has also said in his Qala'id al-Iqyan, or by conquest in one instance, when there is someone who is more suitable for it than such a one. Now the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, he mentioned in Usul al-Sunnah, and whoever came out in rebellion against one of the imams of the Muslims, and the people were gathered upon him and affirmed for him the khilafah in any way, shape, or form in which they would be pleased with him, or if he conquered over them, then the one coming out to rebel against him has indeed tried to break the unity of the Muslims. He has opposed the narratives and actions before from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if such a one dies, he dies the death of Jahiliyyah. And this is from طبقات الحنابلة المجلد الأول الصفحة 44 و200. This is from طبقات الحنابلة volume 1 page 244. وقال المرداوي الإمام رحمه الله في الإنصاف عن إمام المرداوي سنة الإنصاف المجلد العاشر الصفحة 10 و300. He said in Al-Insaf volume 10 page 310 نصب الإمام فرض كفاية وقال في الفروع فرض كفاية على الأصح فمن ثبتت إمامته بإجماع أو بنص أو باجتهاد أو بنص من قبل عليه وبخبر متعين لها حرم قتاله وكذا لو قهر الناس بسيفه حتى أذعنوا له ودعوه إماما قاله في الكافي وغيره. And likewise, when the Imam is given the post, having the post of Imam over the Muslims is a collective, it's a group obligation. This was also mentioned by Imam Shamsuddin Muflih rahimahullah, who died 762 in Al-Furu', in which he said it is a group obligation according to the most authentic opinion. So when the imamship is established by ijma' or explicit text or with ijtihad or text from before upon him or some matter is accepted, it has a valid point in which there is valid information that was given that establishes this point, it is impermissible to fight such a one that has been appointed. Likewise, if he conquered over the people, if he conquered over people with the sword until they submitted to him and they labeled him Imam, then also the same ruling applies in which he should not be fought and rebelled against. And this is mentioned by Imam Wafiddin Qudama, who died 620 Hijri, in Al-Kafi and other books besides. Looking at the statement of Imam Al-Mardawi, we also must understand وأما من يظهر الكفر ويحاد الله ورسوله من الحكام فإن الإمام أجاز الخروج عليه. قال ابن حمدان حاكيا عن أحمد من دعا إلى بدعة مضلة فلا تجيبوه وإن قدرتم على خلعه فاخلعوه. So, as far in the case of the one who manifests kufr and opposes Allah and His Messenger from the rulers, Imam Ahmed gave permission to come out in rebellion against such a one. Imam Najmuddin ibn Hamdan al-Harrani rahimahullah, who died 695 Hijri, narrated the statement from Imam Ahmed who said, whoever called to an astray innovation, do not answer him in that regard. If you're able to unseat him from power, unseat him. Now this is the end of the statement of Imam Ahmed, but we also, I would like to say, وَالْحُكَامُ فِي تَنْفِيذِهِمْ شرع الله مراتب ودرجات كما أن الناس في ذلك مراتب ودرجات والإمام رضي الله عنه ما كان يسارع إلى التكفير بل كان يرى أن الكفر كفران كفر مخرج عن الملة وكفر غير مخرج وأن عدم تطبيق بعض أحكام الشرع هو كفر دون كفر ورأى القاضي أبو يعلى أن عدم تنفيذ الحدود الشرعية لا يعد كفرا مخرجا من الملة إلا أن الحاكم القادر على إيقاع الحدود وتنفيذها إثم وعاص لله تعالى إذا لم ينكر فرضيته. ورأى الشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية أن الخلافة هي الأصل والملك يعمل به عند العجز على الخلافة وأنه لا يرضى بالملك دون الخلافة إلا الإباحية والمرجئة كما قال رحمه الله في كتابه السياسة الشرعية حين قال ابن تيمية يعني تقي الدين أبو العباس رحمه الله إن تركوا الخلافة سبب للذم والعقاب وقال إن تركوا الخلافة هو ترك بعض الدين الواجب لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم استاء من الملك بعد ذكر الخلافة. ونص الإمام حرمين الجويني وشيخ الحنابل أبو يعلى البغدادي رحمه الله أن الخلافة هي الأصل والملك استثناء. The rulers in their discharging of the revealed law are of types and ranks, just as the people in that regard are of types and ranks. The Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, may Allah be pleased with him, did not rush to make takfir, but instead he held that kufr is of two kinds. Kufr that expels from the religion and kufr that does not expel from the religion. And so when you have a ruler that does not implement some of the judgments of the revealed law, or one of the judgments, this is kufr duna kufr. This is kufr less than kufr, a major sin. Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la al-Baghdadi rahimahullah held the understanding that not discharging the judicial punishments of the revealed law does not immediately relegate someone to kufr that expels from the religion, unless the ruler is able to discharge the judicial laws and discharge them. Then in this case he is sinful and he is disobedient to Allah, exalted be He. As long when it's the case that he does not deny their compulsoriness. If he does deny their compulsory nature, then he is most surely guilty of kufr that expels from the religion. Likewise, Shaykh al-Islam Taqiyuddin Abu Abbas ibn Taymiyyah stated that khilafah is a foundational principle, while monarchy may be used when one is incapable of bringing about the khilafah, and that he's not pleased with monarchy when khilafah is present. And no one's pleased with such a thing except the Ibahiyya and the Murji'ah, the two cults. And this is the same thing as what he said, rahimahullah, in his book As-Siyasatu Shar'iyyah. It was also said by Taqiyuddin Abu Abbas ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, who lived from 661 to 728. If the khilafah, in the case where the khilafah is abandoned because of a censure or some blameworthy affair or punishment, then he said, if the khilafah is left, then part of the deen that is wajib is also being left, because the Prophet ﷺ only mentioned monarchy after mentioning al-khilafah. And Imam al-Haramain al-Jawani explicitly mentioned this, and so did the Shaykh of the Hajj Abu Ja, that khilafah is the foundational principle, while monarchy and mulk is a dispensation that someone may implement in its place. Thaniyan, the second heading to this particular objective, توسطه في الأمر بالمعروف والإنكار على الناس, his middle position and balanced position in enjoining the right and rebuking the people in this regard. ومن منهجه الترفق بالناس عند أمرهم بالمعروف، فقد قال لمن يريد الأمر بالمعروف يأمر بالرفق والخضوع، ثم قال إن أسمعوه ما يكره لا يغضب، فيكون يريد ينتصر لنفسه. أما الإنكار على السلاطين فقد قال العلامة ابن الجوزي يعني أبو الفرج عبد الرحمن رحمه الله، من الأمر بالمعروف النهي عن المنكر مع السلاطين التعريف والوعظ، وأما تخشين القول نحو يا ظالم يا ما لا يخاف الله، فإن كان ذلك يحرك فتنة يتعدى شرها إلى الغير لم يجز، وإن لم يخف إلا على نفسه فهو جائز عند جمهور العلماء. قال والذي أراه المنع من ذلك، لأن المقصود إزالة المنكر، وحمل السلطان بالانبساط عليه على فعل المنكر أكثر من فعل المنكر الذي قصد إزالته. قال الإمام أحمد رضي الله عنه لا يتعرض للسلطان فإن سيفه مسلول وعصاه. وأما ما جرى للسلف من التعرض لأمرائهم فإنهم كانوا يهابون العلماء، فإذا انبسطوا عليهم احتملوهم في الأغلب. ولأحمد من حديث عطية السعدي وإذا استشاط السلطان تسلط عليه الشيطان. From the methodology of the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah is a level of tenderness shown to the people at the time that he is commanding them with righteousness. He said to the one that sought advice regarding enjoining the right and forbidding the wrong, he said, command it with tenderness and righteousness and humility. The Imam then went on to say, and if they should heed that advice, do not rebuke them in any other way, and don't become angry during the rebuke immediately, because you are only seeking to help them, and the one seeking to help them helps himself. As far as rebuking the rulers, the Imam also discussed this matter as well. So rebuking the rulers, the senior scholar Ibn al-Jawzi, Abu al-Faraj rahimahullah, who died 597 Hijri, said, Whoever commanded with righteousness and forbade from wrong with the rulers should do so in the matter of preaching. As far as using words that will put fear into the rulers, such as, O oppressor, O the one who does not fear Allah, if that should happen to bring about tribulation in which its evil will come to others besides him, it's not permitted to do this. But if there's no fear of that, except that evil will only come to himself, then it's permitted to use this type of language according to the vast majority of scholars. But that which I personally understand is not doing this, because the intent is to lift the evil thing and to move the sultan from doing that to that which is good, and not to move him towards doing a wrong action greater than the wrong action which he is currently trying to remove, because this will bring tribulations. The Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal radiallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, said, you should not seek out the sultan to provoke him, because his sword is drawn and so is his stick raised. Now I, Ibn al-Jawzi, would like to say, as far as what is narrated from the first three generations who went to their rulers, they did so using the rank of the scholars and their power and strength and bravery. And when they came to them, in most instances, it was to put them on the right track. And they used this language because they knew that they would be willing to go back on the right track. And this is the same thing as what was narrated by Imam Ahmed rahimahullah from the hadith of Atiyah Sa'di. When the sultan happens to be provoked, then that is maybe when the shaitan will take dominion over him. وقال Imam Ahmed, and Imam Ahmed rahimahullah also said, وَالنَّاسُ يَحْتَاجُونَ إِلَى مَدَارَةٍ وَرِفْقٍ فِي الْأَمْرِ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ بِلَا غَلْظَةٍ إِلَّا رَجُلًا مُبَيِّنًا معلنا بالفسق والرد فيجب عليك نهيه وإعلامه وأنه يقال ليس بفاسق حرمة فهذا لا حرمة له فلا حرمة له. So the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah said, the people are in need always of goodness and reminders and tenderness in enjoining the right without hostility, except in the case of a man who knowingly opposes the sunnah and announces openly his rebellious sin and his rebellious behavior. At that point, it's necessary for you to forbid him from that and to announce this fact, because it is said, there is no sanctity for a rebellious sinner, and there is no sanctity for him. And this is taken from Abu Bakr al-Khallal in his book Al-Amr bil-Ma'ruf and-Nahy 'anil Munkar, page 33. ولذلك فإن الأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر شروطا ينبغي على الناس معرفتها فلا ينكر إلا ما اتفق على حرمته كالزنا والخمر والقمار واللواط والسحر والشعوذة والربا ومقدمات كل. أما ما فيه خلاف بين المذاهب الإسلامية كوجه المرأة والدخان ووضع يدين في الصلاة والمسائل الدقيقة في الاعتقاد فلا ينكر. And because of this, enjoining the right and forbidding the wrong has conditions that are necessary for the people to know. And one may not forbid the wrong except in a case that is agreed upon in the revealed law, like fornication and adultery, the taking of intoxicants, gambling, homosexuality and the acts that lead to that, magic, sorcery, and other affairs connected to that, riba, usury, the affairs of technical, and the opening matters that could lead to that. As far as whatever there's a difference of opinion in among the madhabs, such as the woman covering her face being awrah or not awrah, the matter of taking on the smoke when one smokes, placing the two hands in the salah where they're to be placed, and other more detailed matters that have precision and creed, then one is not rebuked for this. قال علامة الرحيباني في مطالب أولي النهى المجلد السادس الصفحة 19 و200. We have the senior scholar Mustafa al-Ruhaybani rahimahullah, who died 1243, in his مطالب أولي النهى volume 6 page 219. وكل أهل المذهب من الأربعة فيهم من حرمه وفيهم من كرهه وفيهم من أباحه، ولكن غالب الشافعية والحنفية قالوا إنه مباح أو مكروه، وبعضهم من حرمه، وغالب المالكية حرمه، وبعضهم منهم كرهه، وكذا أصحابنا سيما النجديون، إلا أني لم أرى من الأصحاب من صرح في تأليفه بالحرمة. وظاهر كلام المصنف هنا وفي رسالة ألفها فيه الإباحة، وظاهر كلام الشيخ منصور البهوتي في آداب النساء الكراهة، ومن العلماء من فصل بين من يسكره ومن لم يسكره، وهو الصواب. إذا إنسان يتناول مباح مجموع عليه فسكر منه، حرم عليه تناوله لأنه يضره في عقله ودينه. وأما أنا فلا أشك في كراهته لما قدمناه ولما فيه من النقص في المال، ولكراهة راحية ولكراهة راحية فم شاربه كأكل البصل، النيء والثوم والكراث ونحوها، ولإخلاله بالمروءة بالنسبة لأهل الفضائل والكمالات. وكان أحمد لا يعد بالسلام شيئا. وأما التحليل والتحريم فلم أقطع بواحد منهما لقصر باعي وقلة إطلاعي ولعدم الدليل الصريح. The senior scholar Al-Ruhaybani said in his Matalib al-Nuha, volume 6, page 219, all of the people of the four madhabs have among them those who declare the taking of tambak, known as tobacco, to be impermissible, and among them is who dislikes it, and among them are those who consider it mubah, neither impermissible nor compulsory, but in the middle. But most of the Shafi'is and the Hanafis say that it is mubah or it is disliked. And some of them, there are those who declare it impermissible. And most of the Malikis declare it impermissible. Some among them declare it disliked. Likewise, our Hanbali scholars, especially those of the Najd, say that this is impermissible after being disliked, except that I didn't see from the companions who explicitly mentioned a book on the topic of it being impermissible, but rather this is something declared. The apparent ruling from that of the Musannif, meaning Umar ibn Yusuf al-Karmi, who died 1033, rahimahullah, here, and in the book that he authored on the topic, is ibaha, permissibility, but the dominant statement of Imam Mansur al-Buhuti, rahimahullah, in his Adab al-Nisa is of karaha, of dislike. From the ulama is who made a distinction, because this is why this is important. Among the scholars who made a distinction between the one who takes it and becomes intoxicated and the one who takes it and did not become intoxicated. And this is the correct understanding. So the human being, when he reaches the situation in which he's not intoxicated, is merely mubah, as is agreed upon. But if he should become intoxicated by it, this is impermissible, as this is agreed upon, because it harms him in his intellect and his religion. With regard to myself, I have no doubt in the disliked nature of it, in the despicable nature of it, because of the preceding statement I made, due to what comes about from someone losing wealth doing so, and the putrescent stench that comes from the mouth of the one who smokes it. It's like eating raw onions, or garlic or leeks, similar foods that give off a bad smell. It also lowers one's manhood and masculinity around the people of righteousness and goodness and complete actions. And Imam Ahmed, when he dealt with people that lowered their rank doing things such as this, he did not give them salam or consider them safe from being rebuked and witness to be given. As far as the topic of declaring it categorically impermissible or categorically impermissible, I've not decisively come to one of those statements due to the little knowledge I have of the complete affair in studying it in detail and the lack of a decisive text on the topic. We then come to the next heading, اعتداله في الجرح والتعديل, the balanced position of Imam Ahmed in criticism and praise regarding those who narrate and are entrusted with passing down the knowledge of the religion. كان إمامنا رضي الله عنه متزن في حكمه على الرجال فلا يسقط عدالة المخالف لمجرد مخالفته. قال أبو حاتم يعني الرازي حدثنا إمام أحمد بن حنبل رحمه الله في من شرب النبيذ من محدث أهل الكوفة وسميت له عددا منهم وقال هذه زلات لهم لا نسقط بزلاتهم عدالتهم. Our Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah kept a balanced position in his ruling on the men who narrate and pass the religion down, and they did not lose their trustworthy rank because of an issue that they differed in, and an issue that was differed upon. Abu Hatim al-Razi rahimahullah, he said, I mentioned to Imam Ahmed and narrated to him regarding the one who drank the nabith from the hadith scholars of Al-Kufa, and I named a number of them who did so. And the Imam said, these are slips from them. We don't drop the rank of their trustworthiness due to their slips. And this is taken from Al-Musawwada, page 265, close quote. Now what this is referring to is nabith is where you soak dates for a period of time in water. And when you soak the dates for a period of time in water, you can drink that for medicinal benefits and as a sunnah action. But you have to be careful to if you don't leave them too long, because if they're left too long, they could become fermented. And Imam Ahmed was worried about them leaving it too long. And so he differed about drinking that nabith when it was left. And that's why I said these are zallat, because again, these are mujtahids. And so we said these are zallat. لِكُلِّ عَالِمٍ هَفْوَةٍ, or another statement, لِكُلِّ عَالِمٍ زَلَّةٍ. Every scholar has a slip or a misstep, where they're making ijtihad, and you had the famous hadith in a Muslim's collection, when he makes ijtihad and he's mistaken, he has one reward, but if he's correct, he has two rewards. And so they don't lose their rank because of that, because that's a different in issue. Right. With regards to the smoking issue, Imam Mustafa Ruhaybani rahimahullah spoke on this very clearly. And that's a topic that requires greater application and examination, simply because there's a lot that goes to it with regards to talking about tembak, and whether we're talking about tembak in terms of its tree form, or whether we're talking about it rolled up like Marlboros, Cool 100s, all these other types of things. These things have to be discussed, and that's why there's this khilaf, because it's what are we talking about, and different rulings are to do with whether it's mixed with something else or inside of something else. Right? So that's why that's happened. So they don't give a blanket statement that it's absolutely this and absolutely that, because the means of how people ingest it will be different. Now, the Shaykh Mustafa Hamdu Ulayyan, he goes on to say, quote, وروى الخطيب البغدادي في تاريخه المجلد العاشر الصفحة 61 و200. It was narrated by Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi in his history text, Tariq Baghdad, volume 10, page 261. بإسناده عن يعقوب بن يوسف المطوعي قال: كان عبد الرحمن بن صالح الأزدي رافضيا، وكان يخشى أحمد بن حنبل فيقربه ويدنيه، فقيل له: يا أبا عبد الله، عبد الرحمن رافضي. فقال: سبحان الله، رجل أحب قوما من أهل بيت النبي نقول له لا تحبهم هو ثقة. وكان إمام أحمد يمدح الرجل ويبالغ، ثم يذكر غلطه في الشيء بعد الشيء، ويقول: نعم الرجل فلان، لولا أن خلت فيه. So it was narrated by Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi in his history book, volume 10, page 261, with his chain of transmission from Ya'qub ibn Yusuf al-Mutu'i, who said, Abdurrahman ibn Salih al-Azdi was a Shia, and Imam Ahmed came amongst him and was near him, was in his presence, and it was said to him, Abu Abdullah, Abdurrahman ibn Salih al-Azdi is Rafidi, he is Shia. He said, glory be to Allah. There is a man who loves the people more than the Ahl Bayt of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we say to him, you should love them, and if he loves them, then he is thiqa. The Imam Ahmed also praised a man and heaped much praise on him, but then he mentioned also his slips in one thing after another. And he said, the good of a man is his best, Had it not been that he had this slip in this area, he would have been better. فهذا منهاج الربانيين في الجرح والتعديل، ومع ذلك فكان يرى مشروعية التحذير من أهل الضلال عند التحقق عن ضلالهم. فقد سئل: ترى للرجل أن يشتغل بالصوم والصلاة ويسكت عن كلام في أهل البدعة، فكلح وجهه وقال. And this is the methodology of the righteous people in dealing with criticism and judging people as upright and just. And with that, the Imam also used to see the validity and understand the validity of warning from the people of astrayness after investigation into what type of astrayness they were in. He was asked, what do you say about the man that busies himself with fasting, with Sawm, Salah, but he's silent regarding discussing the people of innovation? And the Imam's face pallowed. It became dark and gloomy. وقال: إذا هو صام وصلى واعتزل الناس أليس إنما هو لنفسه؟ قلت بلى. قال: فإذا تكلم كان له ولغيره يتكلم أفضل. So when he has done Sawm and made Salah and isolates himself from the people, is that not for himself? And I said, indeed. The people said, indeed. The person said, this is correct. He said, so when he speaks, that's for him and for those besides him. And when he speaks on that topic, that's actually better for him that he does that. And this is taken from Al-Adab al-Shar'iyya, Volume 1, page 230. ولكن هذا التحذير إنما يكون من قبل العلماء الفاهمين الجامعين للعلوم الشرعية المجازين في الفقه والأصول والاعتقاد والبلاغة والنحو والقرآن والسنة، وليس دعاء المنابر والشاشات الفاضئية، فإن الجهل عند أكثرهم طاغ ودعاوى عندهم عريضة. But you have to understand, this warning given by the Imam, it is only from the place of the scholars who are understanding and encompassing of the sciences of the revealed law, who have a good and firm, steady hand in fiqh, usul, i'tiqad, balagha, nahu, Quran, and sunnah. It is not merely for the callers from the minbars or people on television screens over the airwaves to do this, because most of them are actually ignorant and they transgress the bounds, and they're callers and claimants to every matter of difficulty amongst them and tribulation. ثالثا, the third heading under the fifth objective, Al-Jihad fi sabilillahi wa ta'ifatul najiyah. Al-Jihad, in the cause of Allah and the saved group. جهاد الكفار والمشركين له مكانة كبيرة عند الإمام أحمد، فقد كان يذهب إلى الثغور ويجاهد بنفسه، وكان يشيع المجاهدين في ذهابهم إلى الثغور، ويبحث على إعداد العدة للقتال وإغاثة المسلمين، وكان يراسل العلماء والأمراء في نصرة المسلمين، ويرى أن الجهاد أفضل الأعمال بعد فرائض، وهو ماض لا يبطله جور جائر، ولا يرى أن الله يؤيد هذا الدين بالرجل الفاجر. وكان يفرق بين الجهاد الدفعي وجهاد الطلب، والأول لا يحتاج إلى إذن الإمام بخلاف الثاني، فإذن الأمير فيه واجب، ورأى أنه لم يكن لهم أمير اختلفوا وتنازعوا في الأمر، ورأى أن الأمير إذا أمرهم بأمور من المباحات فيجب عليهم طاعته. وقال العلامة ابن قدامة، يعني موافق الدين قدامة رحمه الله في الشرح الكبير، يعني شمس الدين أبو الفرج ابن قدامة ابن أخ في الشرح الكبير، وأفضل ما يطوع به الجهاد. قال أحمد رحمه الله الإمام: لا أعلم شيء من العمل بعد فرائض أفضل من الجهاد. روي ذلك عنه جماعة من أصحابه. قال الأثرم، يعني أبو بكر، قال أحمد: لا نعلم شيئا من أبواب البر أفضل من السبيل. وقال الفضل بن زياد: سمعت أبا عبد الله وذكر له أمر الغزو، فجعل يبكي ويقول: ما من أعمال البر أفضل منه. وقال عنه غيره: ليس يعدل لقاء العدو شيء. ومباشرة القتال بنفسه أفضل الأعمال، والذين يقاتلون العدو هم الذين يدفعون عن الإسلام، وعن حريمهم فأي عمل أفضل منه. الناس آمنون وهم خائفون، قد بذلوا مهج أنفسهم. Jihad against the kuffar and the idol worshippers has a huge rank. in the estimation of the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. He actually had gone to the frontiers of the Muslims and done ribat, in which he was there for 40 days. He made jihad with himself. He was under the ranks of the mujahidin when they went to those frontiers. He admonished and incited people to go out for fighting in the cause of Allah and to defend the ranks of the Muslims. He did the same thing when he sent letters and researches to the scholars and the rulers in the assistance of the Muslims. He believed that jihad was the best of all actions after the fard salah, and it is extant and shall not be nullified by the tyranny of any ruler or the righteousness of any ruler at any time. He held the understanding that Allah shall strengthen this religion even if it is with a sinful man. And he made a distinction between the defensive jihad and the offensive jihad. The first jihad does not require the permission of the grand imam, but this is the opposite of the second, which is the offensive jihad, which requires such permission. The permission of the emir in that case is wajib with regard to the offensive jihad. Imam Ahmed rahimahullah also saw that if there is no emir for them and they differ and they dispute regarding the affair, and they saw that the emir, when he commanded them with halal things, then it's necessary for the people to obey when an emir has appeared. The senior scholar, Abu al-Faraj Shamsuddin Abdul Rahman ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi rahimahullah, the nephew of Muwafiquddin Qudama rahimahullah. Shamsuddin Qudama died 682 Hijri, Muwafiquddin Qudama died 620 Hijri, but Shamsuddin Qudama mentioned in Ash-Sharh al-Kabir, also called Ash-Shafi, Sharh al-Muqni', he said, the best optional things to be done when someone's discharged the compulsory is jihad. The Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah said, I don't know anything of actions after the fard salah more virtuous than jihad. That has been narrated from him by a big body of his companions. Abu Bakr al-Athram said that Imam Ahmed mentioned, we don't know any of the doors of righteousness more virtuous and noble than that of jihad. Al-Fadl ibn Ziyad said, I heard Abu Abdullah Ahmad ibn Hanbal say, when it was mentioned to him the affair of combat in the way of Allah, he wept. And he said, there is no actions of righteousness more noble than it. He said in another place, when it comes to meeting the enemy, there is no thing better than that. And directly being in the thick of the fighting in and of itself is a good thing. As among the most noble of acts, and those who fight against the enemy, they are those who are defending Islam, defending the honor and rank of Islam. Which action is better than that? The people stay safe in their homes resting, while the mujahideen are in fear and discharging the rights to protect the selves and persons of those people. I, the author, Mustafa Hamdu Ulayyan, would like to say, وَأَمَّا طَائِفَةُ النَّاجِيَةُ فَهِيَ كُلُّ مَنْ قَاتَلَ الرُّومَ وَالْمُشْرِكِينَ. Indeed, this saved party, from known as the victorious group, also known as the Ta'if al-Mansura, is all of who fights against the Byzantines and the idol worshippers. فقد سئل عن الطائفة الناجية فقال هم أهل المغرب هم الذين يقاتلون الروم كل من قاتل المشركين فهو على الحق. The Imam Ahmed rahimahullah, he was asked about the victorious group within the safe sect, and he said, they are the people of the Maghrib. They are those who fight against the Byzantine, and any who fights against the idol worshippers, then he is upon the truth. Rahu ibn Hani, and this is collected by Ibn Hani. وأهل المغرب هم أهل الشام كما روى الإمام أحمد عن سيدنا معاذ بن جبل رضي الله عنه ثم لابد أن يكون هذا القتال شرعيا يقوده العلماء الفقهاء العاملون العارفون. The Ahl al-Maghrib referred to here the people of Sham, as was mentioned by the Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah, as narrated from our Sayyid Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiyallahu anhu. It's necessary, though, that this qital be based on the revealed law, as stipulated and laid down by the scholars and fiqh scholars who act by the truth and are knowers of Allah. وَإِمَّا الْقِتَالُ بَيْنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ مَهْمَا اخْتَلَفَتْ مَذَاهِبَهُم فَلَيْسَ بِجِهَادٍ. As far as the fighting that takes place between Muslims on account of their differing beliefs and groups, this isn't jihad. وَإِنَّمَا فِتْنَةٌ وَكُلُّ قِتَالٍ عَلَى الدُّنْيَا وَعَلَى الْمُلْكِ وَالسُّلْطَةِ فَهُوَ فِتْنَةٌ. It's only tribulation and fitna, and all fighting for earthly affairs, for dominion, kingdoms, and authority like this is fitna. وقال البربهاري يعني أبو محمد رحمه الله. And the Imam Abu Muhammad al-Barbahari rahimahullah, who died 329, said in his Sharh Sunnah, وَإِذَا وَقَعَتِ الْفِتْنَةِ فَالْزَمْ جَوْفَ بَيْتِكَ. And when tribulation comes down, go and stay maintained in your homes. وَفِرَّ مِنْ جَوَارِ الْفِتْنَةِ. Flee from the causes of tribulation, fitna. إِيَّاكَ وَالْعَصَبِيَّةِ. Beware of partisanship and affairs. وكل ما كان من قتال بين المسلمين على الدنيا فهو فتنة فاتق الله وحده لا شريك له. And all of whatever comes from fighting between the Muslims for earthly affairs, that is the definition of fitna. Fear Allah alone. There is no partner for him. I, Mustafa Hamdu Ulayyan, would also like to say, والجهاد مصطلح شرعي قد عرفه العلماء بتعريف دقيق. قال في الإقناع. The jihad is the word al-jihad is a specific word in the revealed law, and it is known and explained by the scholars according to a precise definition. Imam Musa al-Hajjawi rahimahullah said in al-Iqna', and was seconded by Imam Mansur al-Buhuti rahimahullah in Kashaf al-Qina' عن متن الإقناع المجلد الثالث الصفحة 32 in volume 3 page 32 في تعريف الجهاد, in the definition of jihad. هو قتال الكفار خاصة بخلاف المسلمين. Al-jihad is armed combat against the unbelievers specifically, but not the Muslims. فقد جعل الحنابلة قتال المسلمين مهما كانوا ليس من الجهاد. Because the Hanbalis have clearly expressed that fighting the Muslims is not classified as jihad when there's fighting between them, and that the jihad only refers to fighting amongst when the Muslims are engaged in armed combat with the kuffar. And this was mentioned by Imam Musa al-Hajjawi rahimahullah in al-Iqna', who died 968 Hijr rahimahullah, and Imam Mansur al-Buhuti in his commentary, who died 1051. Close quote. So alhamdulillah, this is where we have reached in our fifth objective, the second research, which brings us to the end of our second research, or our second unit. And that means now we only have one unit left, mashallah, to complete. And that will bring us to the end of the book. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us in this regard. But in particular, one thing I wanted to mention was the fact of that you have to always keep in mind that the ulama and the mujahidin are very closely linked to one another. And when someone tries to take that away, obfuscate it, nullify it, or obscure it, you have to ask yourself, why are they doing that? Why are they hiding this? How are they doing this? And why would they hide it? In this particular day and time, some people have played with the revealed law, tampered with some precepts and principles, and they are not to be obeyed in that regard, for they lie on the revealed law, they lie on the scholars, and they lie about the mujahideen. Let us return to the way of our elders in the love for the jihad. Imam Ahmed did the ribat for 40 days and 40 nights. He looked after the frontiers of the Muslims in these areas where there was real combat between the Muslims and the kuffar. So even if they didn't see live combat, they were in the field. And out of my teachers, some 3 of them have been in the field. And this is important, because this was something they stressed to us about the importance of being in the field. My eldest blood brother was in the field. So this is important. It's part of our religion. We can't deny it. It's there. To deny the text is most certainly major kufr and major shirk, which will take someone out of the religion. So this is a fact, and it's something that we can't shrink away from. It is a reality, and it will always be a reality until the day of resurrection. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the scholars, bless the mujahidin who fight, who are not soldiers of fortune, who murder babies and children and rape 12-year-olds and drop napalm like cowards from above and then brag about victories they never had. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless these noble mujahideen and the scholars that impart to them the knowledge and the bravery so that they can discharge these matters from now until the day of resurrection, in which the victorious group shall conquer over the Dajjal and the false people of wickedness in every affair. May Allah bless the mujahideen wherever they are, whatever fields of combat they are, wherever they are in the field of battle, and bless them from now until the day of resurrection, and always give them the best of it, the sinful and the righteous amongst them. May they be in the breasts of green birds. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina wa rasulina Muhammad ibn Abdillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam ajma'in ya hamid rahimin. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. إنه غفور رحيم حميد رحيم ولا إله إلا الله والسلام عليكم.